It is. It's a boat that looks like a little house. The floating homes are permanent. We'll talk about it. So we're going to go through the channel, and I got to get off of the microphone. Anytime you're ready, Kat, let's do this. Let's go chicken out there on the water. Yeah. Hot tub boat. Look at those. See the hot water in the boat?
That's cool.
That's a houseboat. That's a houseboat back there. They do special agent realty. They can help you with all your very complicated questions. One of them is taxes, like for floating homes. And I called them and they haven't returned my call yet. I hope that nobody asks me about taxes. I'm pretty versed in the price tag of floating homes and how they work and stuff like that. And we'll definitely talk about it. See, this is a houseboat. See the motor on it? That's a houseboat. That's probably about 350,000, 400,000 right there. And you got to pay for storage. You know, you got to pay for the space you're taking up, and you're going to hook up. You're going to use their water, their electricity, and you know. And you got to get pumped out too. They're self-contained, like the motor homes or boats. This is a houseboat, and I paid. This was an Airbnb. Because every weekend there's someone new in there, like there's like a little port. These are swimsuits are all hanging out. They got their floating stuff there, and they were the same people that were there like a week ago. All right, so she's gonna speed up, so you might want to hold on because we're gonna go full speed. All right, we don't want so. Okay, we're going full speed right now. Are you guys okay? She's a rebel. Alright, let's talk about Lake Union. It was actually named Lake Union in 1854 by Judge Mercer. It was a lake all by itself, but he said one day it will be connected with Lake Washington, which is on the other side over here, and the Puget Sound, which is to the west of us, okay? So the Army Corps of Engineers moved in right around 1910, and they got to work. So from 1911 to 1917, they dug it out over here to create a passageway so we could go back and forth between Lake Union and Lake Washington, and they put in the Ballard blocks to the west of us. So about a mile and a half to the west of us is where the separation is made between the fresh water and the salt water. Okay, it's about a 25-foot height difference. Yeah, and it's free when you take your boat through there. The Army Corps of Engineers won't charge you nothing. You know, you just wait for their instructions. They tell you what to do. Sometimes they're kind of mean, you know, get over your tongue, whatever, you know. But won't cost you nothing. All right, those are floating homes over there on the left side of the lake, all the way up the left side of the lake, except for the thing that has the pilings driven into the lake bottom. So that's just like kind of what you see down on the waterfront. Like when you want to go out over the water and it's not floating, they just drive them in. But those homes over there and these ones over here, these are all floating. Now we're going to talk about how they float later on, okay? Now we do have some more houseboats coming up. So Lake Union, freshwater, clean. It wasn't clean back in the day. The pioneers, you know, put floating homes out here, which was basically a shack on a bunch of trees that were floating on the water, and they would defecate in the water. So at some point, the city cleaned it up by making sure that everybody that wanted to have a floating home had to have it, you know, permitted, engineered, inspected, and it had to be hooked up to the city utilities. So all of these over here are permanently hooked up to the water, the sewer, and the electricity and all that. But these over here, they plug in their extension cords and their water hoses, and they're self-contained, like I was talking about earlier. So these have to get pumped out, but nothing gets discharged into the lake. You know what I'm talking about, okay? Yeah. Lake Union right now is probably about 70 degrees. It'll warm up to about 74 degrees. It's very shallow. It's only about 35 feet deep. Yeah. It's not real good for the fish. You know, it's not a good place for fishing, but it's good for swimming, kayaking, stand stand-up paddleboarding. When it's warm, there's thousands of people out here, and right in the middle of it, airplanes taking off and landing. This is an international runway or airport because Kenmore Air takes people up to Canada. Okay? Now this, let's talk about this over here. This is not the original roasting plant for Starbucks. No. This is an old coal gasification plant that turned coal into gas from 1906 to 1956. Coal was mined on the outskirts of town, brought in by train, made into a fuel, piped into the city. That's how we heated the homes of Seattle and like the businesses and stuff. Very messy, very dirty to make. They don't do that anymore. So why is it still there? Well, the city was going to tear it out in 1972 when they wanted to make a nice park out of it. And everybody said, no, whoa, 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 put the brakes on it. Keep it. It's awesome. Let's repurpose it. You know what? Let's make public art out of it. Let's put a fence around it. So that's what they did. Has anybody ever seen 10 Things I Hate About You? Yes. The paint scene with Julia Stiles and Heath Ledger was right over there. How about The Amazing Race? They've been there twice. Grey's Anatomy? Yeah. Yeah. So it's been the backdrop for various TV shows and movies, okay? What else happens over there? Wedding photographs, believe it or not. You put the bride and the groom and the party, with that in the background, it pops. With the gown and all that, the big rusty thing. And what else do they have out here? 4th of July festivities. You just missed them. Were you guys around for the fireworks? There was a barge right over here. And there was a whole bunch of people over here. All right. This is the main body of your lake over here. 580 acres. Not very big. Kite Hill. So what we have is we have high spots and low spots in Seattle. You know, we have like hills and valleys and stuff like that. The valleys are they have water in them, you know. So these hills, we have neighborhoods on top. The one we're aimed at is called Queen Anne. That's where a lot of our pioneers built their homes in the 1800s, using the style of architecture that was real popular back in the day. It was called Queen Anne style. Look at the dog on that stand-up paddleboard. Hey, doggy. People love dogs in Seattle. You know that people take their dogs to work when they work for Amazon? Oh yeah. Amazon does not want you stressing about your dog. They don't want you looking at your watch. They don't want you saying, I gotta get home, I gotta let the dog out or feed the dog. They say, bring your dog to work. Bring them to work. There's over 4,800 dogs registered with the company, just down in the downtown there. That's Amazon, most of it. Still working away at it. You remember the Columbia Center tower that I was talking about that's bigger than the Bliss? It's the one, if you look, you've got like the 1, 2, and then the third one over from the left. It's kind of the darkest one, and it's behind another building. That's the Columbia building. And you got an airplane taking off. How cool is that? I'll talk about that church on when we go kind of over there, you know, when we get closer to that area over there. Back over here to the right. So this is how you go to the lock. You go under 1, 2, 3 or 4 bridges, and then you're in the lock down there. And on the left is Fisherman's Terminal. I'll talk about him later too. We have a lot of fishing boats here in Seattle. We supply a lot of fish for the nation. And to validate Boeing, even though corporate headquarters moved to Chicago, they left their boat behind. I don't know if it's the only one that they have or not, but it's called the Daedalus. You see the big one with the white top and the blue bottom? That belongs to Boeing. That's one of their corporate yachts right over there. All right, let's talk about Sleepless. That's why we bring you out here, right? The movie comes out in 1993. It's voted one of the most romantic comedies of all time, starring Tom Hanks and the original Meg Ryan. Okay. What did I say? Alright, let's take a look at the home. We have to keep our distance. Someone lives in it, right? I'm going to point. So you see the small brown one with the white umbrella on the deck. You see the rust-colored one with the orangish brown kayak. Then you jump over to the sleepless. It's kind of a tan-colored home with a sailboat tied up to the right of it. See the one I'm talking about? That's your sleepless. I can make it bigger. Okay. And then you get the Queen Anne's Revenge. That's a little pirate boat you can go take a little trip on. They're a lot of fun, and they're going to be in between us and the sleepless right about now. Now that is a 2,200 square foot floating home. And that was in the movie. And it's one of the most expensive ones here on the lake. 3 years ago, a couple purchased that home, and I'll tell you the price tag, but I'm unclear because I was waking up and they were on the news, and it was like, whoa, 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 turn the volume up, because they were on the news. I don't know why. They wanted to publicize that they bought the home because it's kind of a famous home here. They said we spent $4.3 million on it. I want to say that covered the remodeling costs that they put into it. So let's talk about the price tag here a little bit. Any one of these homes here is going to go for about, on the average, about $1,500 a square foot. So that would have righteously been about $3 million. You know, they're expensive. All right, I'm going to cut you loose for a little bit. I want you to relax, take pictures, and when I catch back up to you, I'll talk about the church. I'll talk about that hill over there. And don't forget, you can ask questions. Stop the music, yeah.
Tomorrow will be a Sunday in Fremont from the Sunday market.
Hold on a second. Say it again.
Tomorrow will be from the Sunday market. Do you have any information?
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. It's tomorrow.
Yeah. Giving you a lot of information here, but I work for you guys. You're my guest, and I want you to be happy. She had a question about Fremont Sunday market. So when we go back into Fremont, I'll point where it's going to be. Okay, it's tomorrow. It's every Sunday, rain or shine, all year round. Every Sunday, all right? In the summertime, it's the best time to go to it because it's bigger. It's more festive. It's more people. In the wintertime, there's a few diehard people that are out there, but it is cold, right? So when we go down 34th, it's going to be on the other side of the intersection, and I'll revalidate that when we get back into Fremont. Fremont Sunday Market. I love questions. Let's talk about, because when we get to here, people are already pointing. What's that? What's that? What's that? It's a church. And it sits up there like all by itself. You know, it's the biggest thing up there. It was supposed to actually be a lot bigger and fancier, but when they built it, they started to build it in 1928. So you had the stock market crash, you know, 29. So they just kind of finished it up. So that is St. Mark's Episcopal Cathedral, and they were foreclosed upon back in the early days, right? But they raised enough money to get it back, and that was in 1947. So they lost it for a few years, they got it back, they've had it since 1947. And you can go there, you don't have to be Episcopalian, you can go there tomorrow night from 9:30 to 10, the men's choir comes out, all you have to do is be quiet, don't bring this, okay? And you can listen to them do the Gregorian chant. They've been doing it since 1952, I believe. Yeah, St. Mark's. There's a couple of other things up there, and that's Capitol Hill, by the way. And Capitol Hill was planted out by James A. Moore, mostly, right around 1900. Okay. There is there's a cemetery up there. I think it's on 10th or 15th. I can't remember. It's called Lakeview Cemetery, and if you want to go see where Bruce Lee and Brandon Lee are buried, they're buried up there. was the oldest daughter of Chief Seattle, is buried up there, Princess Angeline. And there was a movie right like next door to the cemetery. There's a conservatory up there. I don't normally talk about it, so I'm kind of searching for the right words. But it was in a movie. What was the movie with the glass came down on her? It was she was pregnant and her husband and it had a helper and what was the name of that movie? Am I narrowing it down for you?
The hand that rocks the cradle.
Hand that rocks the cradle.
Wait, what? She worked with the plants and everything. Well, there's an actual conservatory up there. So when she was working on those plants and everything, it's a real building. You can go up there and it's pretty cool to go into. I can't remember the name of the movie.
The hand that rocks the
I can't remember the name of the actresses either. Rebecca De Mornay was the bad lady, I think. Remember the bad lady?
The hand that rocks the cradle.
Hand that rocks the cradle. Hand that rocks the cradle. Oh, I thought my head was gonna like. So they filmed that up there in that conservatory up there. I'm sorry. I tried talking about stuff I was a little atrophied on. I haven't talked about it in a while. But I know how to talk about floating homes. You want to know about floating homes? Yeah.
Is there room between like a valley of the waterway?
Okay. So in between the houses where you see is like a driveway to park your boat. But if you go past, like right over there, there is like an alleyway. It's a watery alleyway. So think of a like a little neighborhood. Instead of having roads and sidewalks, you have water and docks. So the land's right over there. You park up on the street, you get your mail, you go through the locked gate, you come home, you put your feet up. There's no yards to mow, no leaves to rake. It's a different lifestyle, but you can drive your boat in there. You can go to your house, park your boat, get out of your boat. Having a boat in Seattle is so much fun because there's restaurants that you can tie up to. They have docks. Ivor's Salmon House right over here at the north end of the lake. I used to do it with my boat. I didn't have a floating home, but I had a boat, so I would launch it, and I would drive into town, and I would go to various restaurants, you know, because there's community docks or park dock, you know, public docks, or even the restaurants themselves, they have their own dock or whatever, but it's so much fun. What's the best time? Nighttime. Nighttime on the water in your boat. That's awesome. Dale Chihuli's studio is up here in front of us. It's underneath the bridge. So that, who's from Vegas? The Bellagio, you know, the glass art, is made right over here. So, floating home. I'm going to see some, like, newer ones. The old ones, like those ones right over there, those are on logs. Wood logs. Okay? What are the newer ones on? Just start naming some, like, products you think they would put a floating home on. Okay, that's a good answer. There could be like a framework affair with styrofoam or you know, ladders, if you will, like that had, I don't know, various different techniques. But actually, the most popular, the most secure, the most trusted product to use is concrete. It's not regular. That's too heavy, lightweight. So what do they do? They make a box. It's a box. Those are on concrete boxes. Okay? They're not on logs, they're not on styrofoam. So each one of those homes is on a box. The width and the length of it, the depth is very, very important because the people that engineer these have to engineer them to where they're not going to sink or be too far out of the water. They're so good at figuring the weight of the home and everything that goes into it that by the time the homes are built, the foundation is pushed. The home is actually pushing the foundation into the water. The water's actually fighting back. It's like this. This is metal, right? But it's like a boat, right? So, you know, the more people we put in it, the more it sits down into the water. But at some point, it's going to stop doing that. And the Coast Guard actually inspects that, and they put reference markers on it. And there's paperwork that validates that. It's complicated. It's hard for me to explain, but when they start off with a concrete foundation, it's floating in the water, it's up out of the water. When they build a house onto it and start pushing it down, by the time they're putting on the doorknob and the light switch, you know, the last thing, it's about that far off the water. Huh? How do they move them? Well, they don't move them after their place where they go, but they tow them with like a tugboat. Here's the thing. That's a good question. When they put the foundation into the water, do they build them there and then tow them, or do they tow the foundations and then build them? Both. They do them both ways. One of them over there was built right there. The rest of them showed up overnight. I love that stuff. Over there in Ballard, they're building a whole bunch of floating homes right now on concrete boxes. The depth is so important, right? Remember we talked about that. We saw some really big ones over there, right? The 2-story ones. Are you ready? Basements. I do. I goof around a lot. I film and I embellish and I exaggerate. You know, I take artistic license. There's one thing I don't mess around with, and that's construction. I did it for 30 years. I'm very passionate about it. I never built a floating home, but I know how this stuff works. The bigger ones back here have basements. Some of them been on TV also. Various like programs.
So what did you do?
Contractor. Framing, residential framing. I built a lot of houses. Yeah.